Hey guys, how's it going? Toofty here, and today we're going to be doing some juicy speculation. It's very almost a topical video. I'm not very good at those kind of things because I ain't got time to respond to goings on in the world, but last Thursday there were some posts on the old Overwatch forums and one or two of them caught my eyeballs. So we had this one which listed out all the heroes that they're thinking of tweaking in the relatively near future. A list of heroes they want to rework, and I thought, hello there speculation. I want to make a video and imagine what they might do because I love speculative videos, weapon concept videos in TF2, that kind of thing, based purely on imagination, creativity, opinion, but I just find them really fun and I'd love to hear what your ideas are in the comments below too. So we've got 6 heroes to go through, some of which we know more about than others. I'm going to go through them in order, tell you a bit about what we know already, and then have a little cheeky speculate on what I think could be on the cards. So let's jump in and take a look at these 6 heroes, starting with Mei. Now, all of these, there are 2 things they're trying to achieve, right? One, funness. The other one, if they're viable. Now, I think Mei is an awful lot of fun to play, so I think it's more a matter of making her a little bit more viable, a little bit more consistent at dealing damage, being more useful on more maps. So, let's have a think about her abilities and what they might change. I think her Ice Wall and her, self-freezy thing, they're pretty literally solid, no pun intended. Those abilities make her what she is. So I can't imagine them being changed that much. They might be tweaked, but not significantly. If you see a good Mei player, what you'll see them do is constantly hold down that right click pretty much and try and spam those projectiles, try and get some headshots from across the map. Now I think this could be one of the areas that they could tweak in a way that maybe the damage is slightly more reliable. But on the other side of things, it's the left click that I'm more interested in because, weirdly, even though she's renowned for her ability to freeze opponents when they get nice and close, you don't see it too often. When you're watching high-level players, right, you just don't get that close to a Mei. So, what I'd be interested to see here is, could they make this a little bit more longer range, a little bit more skill-based? So what I mean by that is, if you get close, you hold left click and you can freeze them. It really is as simple as that. There's no skill involved. Getting the headshot afterwards takes a bit of skill, and obviously there's loads of skill to Mei, but just that one ability, it's very simple, right? So could it be a little bit more of a longer range cloud that you have to control? I quite like the idea of, as a Genji's ulting, trying to slow him down mid-air. Could be interesting, but at the same time you'd have to have some kind of compromise. So maybe make it freeze for less time. You can freeze more often and from a longer range, but when they are frozen, they're not stuck for quite as long. A tricky one, I think, to tweak. She's awesome. She has a really strong set of abilities, and I think they're going to stay very similar to what they are now. I think it's going to be a matter of tweaking. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's move on to the next one, which is Sombra. Okay, so Sombra we know a little bit more about already, and I was really excited to hear about this because I've always thought there was a bit of an imbalance with her abilities. It's just a personal opinion really, but I basically wanted hack to be a bigger deal. When she hacks, it's a bigger deal. Again, maybe it takes more skill to pull off. Maybe there are different types of hack, like maybe the duration of the hack depends on how accurate you are with holding that button down on their head or something. I always like the idea of adding a bit of a skill ceiling to these kind of abilities. Not just you either do it or you don't just by holding the button down, if they happen to be within your view, but actually going, okay, you can do a really good hack and a really simple hack, and the better you get, the better the hack you can do. I know that's difficult to achieve, but that's kind of what I have in my mind. And in the same way as I was talking about Mei having it maybe longer range, but you really have to aim it. Maybe the closer you are, the more easier it is to hack, and when you get further away, you really have to sort of aim in your I don't know, radio waves, whatever it is, onto them for a long period of time, and then you can still hack them. But anyway, what we do know is that they're buffing her hack because her hack's going to do more. It's going to disable way more abilities, which I think is awesome because it will make you even more vulnerable if you're a hacked opponent, right? And it also depends on what class you are. If you're a soldier and you're at the back lines and you get hacked, it's like, I'm not too bothered, to be honest. Whereas if you hack a tracer, it's a big deal. So it really does depend on the hero. But we know the hacking's going to do more, and it's also going to be quicker to do, so that's kind of interesting. And the other thing we know about Sombra is, obviously she hacks health packs, and right now she gets loads of ultimate charge from doing so and having your teammates use those health packs. That's going to be, I think, completely removed, which I think is kind of interesting. So my opinion on the whole health pack hacking thing is, it feels a bit like a chore, okay? It's not an interesting part of her gameplay, you just have to do it. It's that thing you got to do at the beginning of the map. Go to a health pack, hack it, throw your thing down to retreat to it later. Something like that where it feels like a chore. It just shouldn't be, there's no point having it almost as a thing you have to do, really. So could you make her hack health packs more passively? And what I mean by that is, like, maybe she has an aura like Lucio and she just does it automatically if she's in a certain radius. The longer she's near a health pack, the more time it's hacked for. I don't know. Again, a tricky one to tweak, but I've always thought that hacking health packs. It doesn't interest me. It's not very exciting gameplay. I know it's very important, but I like what they're doing with switching that around and making her more of an assassin, making it all about hacking opponents and that being really powerful, and the health pack being a bit more of a tertiary ability, if you like. Anyway, let's move on to the next hero. So Symmetra, I think we've all known for a while, or had our suspicions, that Symmetra may indeed get tweaked. And I think she's one of the heroes that could get tweaked in a more significant way. I would like to see some bigger changes to her, because I think there are certain parts of her kit I'm not a big fan of again, and I think I'm probably just on my own here, but for example, her barrier that she throws out, her photon barrier, I've never been a fan of it. Okay, it gives her that option to be more offensive and just run at the enemy, but it's definitely not fun to play against that, but maybe it's fun to do, I don't know. I don't really play Symmetra so much. But I would like to see, and again, we're speculating, we're going mental, it's fine, no harm done. I'd like to see more turrets. Now, I know turrets can be annoying, but a bigger variety of turrets. Perhaps there are turrets that slow, there are turrets that do damage, and there are turrets that show you where the enemy are. And by using a nice concoction of those, putting them in strategic places, I find that side of her gameplay just more interesting and more fun, being strategic with her kit. So could you remove the barrier completely and just replace it with different cool kinds of turrets? I don't know. Or of course, a completely different ability that, I've not thought of. The other thing I would imagine that they're considering as well is changing their left click, just because I know a lot of players get frustrated with this, right? It is annoying. Sometimes she's running at you, she's holding that button down, and she just kills you. It's like, great. That was fun. I couldn't do anything, and there was like very little skill involved. As a Winston player, I always get frustrated when we're basically doing a left click battle, right? And it's just who can hold it down the longest, and it depends on your starting point of your health and stuff, and sometimes she wins, and it's like, I'm a tank, man. I'm a goddamn tank. I should be winning that, surely. But anyway, I don't know what they could do to that. It's quite an integral part of her kit. Again, I'm always a big fan of the idea of increasing that skill ceiling. So sure, you can just lock on, but if you can aim it perfectly at the head, 20% more damage. And if you're aiming further away from the body, it does 20% less damage. So there's a little bit of more to it than just like the on and off thing that some of these abilities have right now. So next up is Doomfist, and I know that a lot of the work on this guy is going to be on fixes. There's obviously loads of bugs with him right now, and to be honest with you, I think the majority of the changes with Doomfist will be tweaks, will be pretty minor, and again, like I said, fixes. My gut feeling is that perhaps they're going to move in the direction of more constant damage, but less crazy damage, if you see what I mean. Because at the moment, his abilities are really kind of hit or miss. You can make a massive play, or you can do absolutely nothing. I think in one of the posts, they talked about adding another shot to his little like shotgun-y thing that comes out of his fist. To be honest, that's the least exciting part of his kit. That's the thing that they just shoved in there to give him some kind of range and something to do kind of in the middle of fights, I guess. So I'm hoping, they're going to continue to explore different ideas and not necessarily settle on something as subtle as that. Anyway, I don't play much Doomfist. I don't know a lot about the character, so let's skip over this guy. If you have any cool ideas for him, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Okay, so next up is Torbjorn. So this is really interesting. I don't think many people expected that this guy was kind of potentially someone who's going to be reworked. As I mentioned before, it's always about, is it a viable character and is it an enjoyable character? I think Torbjorn's pretty enjoyable. I mean, perhaps he relies a bit too much on his turret, but that's kind of who he is, right? So it's very difficult to change that. You'll probably start to see a bit of a theme here, but I could imagine, what if his turret did more or less damage depending on how well you were doing? Similar in a way to Zarya. What if you were putting out loads of damage as Torbjorn, your turret starts ramping up the damage it can do, or something like that? So it gives you a bit more of an incentive to get out there and do some damage. I don't know if that would solve anything. It might make him a bit more fun, might give a bit more dynamic to the hero. The other thing I'll say about Torbjorn is that I find the metal mechanic very odd. It feels really out of place in the Overwatch world. I can't put my finger on why. Feels a bit weird. Again, could that be a bit more passive and give him something more interesting to do? With the risk of sounding like we're copying TF2 here, but could he have a second or third building? Could he have like a dispenser-like building that you can go back to for health? I don't see why not. As long as it doesn't replace Symmetra's shield generator, something a bit more subtle than that could be really interesting. Anyway, I think Torbjorn's a really interesting one. I have no idea where they're going to go with this. It could just be another one of those, let's just tweak him ever so slightly. Or, who knows, maybe they'll add some cool new abilities like they did with D.Va. We didn't expect that one coming, but they just went ahead and shoved some rockets on her mech. So you never know. You just never know. Okay, so finally it's Hanzo, and this one I really wanted to chat to you guys about because I have some amazing ideas for you, okay? I've probably built that up a bit too much. Okay, so we know for a fact that they want to rework Scatter Arrow, right? It's not the most pleasant way to die in Overwatch, I heard. So there's another post from the forum here. It talks about some of the things they've tried, other types of abilities they've tried. They've looked at like a long range kind of sniper arrow that goes much quicker and can travel through shields. It looks like they're going to dismiss this because, you know, feeling safe behind a shield and then getting shot in the head may not be the most enjoyable experience in Overwatch, which I can kind of understand. They talk about some other things they've tried. So when I first heard about the idea of them reworking scatter arrow, I was like, why don't they just make it so it doesn't scatter off the floor? Boom. Fixed. But apparently they've already tried this to some extent, and apparently it made it very difficult to use. But maybe that's fine if you reduce the cooldown. It's just a really difficult one to pull off and you have to scatter it off a wall or off the ceiling. Maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know. Interesting to think about. But I had some other cool ideas I wanted to share with you guys. Some of them are a bit wonky, but you know, we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Could he just have a single scatter arrow? It still bounces off stuff, but it doesn't break into multiple arrows, so it's just a bouncy arrow, if you see what I mean. Maybe it bounces for ages, but it just means you can't get that off the floor crazy burst damage, but you can, a bit like Moira's orbs, you can throw it into a room and it bounces around like crazy and will do a bunch of damage. Or you can do those skill shots off a wall still. But I think this will drastically reduce how impactful it is, so you'd have to reduce the cooldown as well. I don't think it's the most exciting idea, but you know, there's one idea I had. Alternatively, you could put a timing on the scatter. So there's a couple of ideas here. One, it could just be like, after 0.5 seconds, it scatters whether you like it or not. This would mean it's all about, you know, figuring out the right range to be at from an enemy. And it means if a tracer just gets right in your face, you try and bounce it off the floor, it's like tough luck. You're going to get one shot on them. It doesn't make any difference. And this kind of led me to the idea of what if you could sort of trigger the scatter? But then I just realized I was making it even more powerful. You right click and it kind of triggers a scatter in midair. And I think this is probably a little bit too powerful. It just means you can scatter off anything, including thin air. So perhaps not perfectly thought through, that one. Anyway, they could completely scrap the scatter idea. I've always thought it'd be a shame to get rid of the whole bouncing on walls thing. I thought that was kind of cool, and when you do get a shot that you actually planned out intentionally, very rare, but you know, when it does happen, I thought that was a very satisfying mechanic. So it would be a shame to get rid of, but you never know. They may just go in a completely different direction. Who knows, a poison arrow, a flaming arrow, you know, there's loads of things they could do, right? So I think this is another one that could be really interesting and they could go in a really interesting direction with. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love a bit of juicy speculation, all right? It's always good fun. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the footage in the background. A little bit of an Overwatch video to mix it up. I'm going to try and do more of these. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know all your ideas and thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit and we have liftoff at 2:13. The Saturn V building up.